People think that being a feminist means being, not being the nice girl. And that's what I want to talk about. That's what I want to demystify. Because yeah, you can be nice, but really what we want to be is compassionate. You want to be compassionate. And when you're compassionate, then you stand up for injustice. When you are compassionate, you see when something is wrong and you say something. You stand up and you take action.
This is Lady Balls Radio, a celebration of women who've let their own brand of awesome shine through, and inspiration for those looking to do the same. I'm your host, Connie Constantine. Welcome back, Lady Ballers. I am so excited. Our guest today is the creator and writer at not Living in Bold, although she is living in bold, writinginbold.com. She's been published in several places, including LA Yoga Magazine, Bust.com, The Huffington Post, and LA Weekly. She's also a certified yoga instructor and currently teaches writing composition 2 at St. Augustine College in Chicago, which, by the way, happens to be the first bilingual college in Illinois. So super cool there. She's also currently working on a book about life tripping, falling, succeeding, and living in bold. And also, I just have to add this. I feel like her Instagram bio sums her up even, well, maybe not best, but I just loved it too, because not only is she a writer and a yogi, but she's also a mama and a feminist, and she's tossing around positivity, rolling eyes at bullshit. That is the best. I love that so much. Because I just, seriously, anybody who has a high bullshit meter is A-okay in my book. That is like such a great skill to have. Today she's going to be demystifying some myths and dropping some truth bombs about one of my favorite F words, feminism. I am so freaking excited to welcome Jazmine Aluma to the show. Welcome, Jazmine.
Hi.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
I'm excited too. Thank you so much for having me here.
No, you are very, very welcome. And that is an impressive resume. I mean, seriously, you've been published in so many places. That is so fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. And also, you recently did an article in Jewish Journal too.
I did.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Awesome. Okay, well, before we dive into talking more about feminism, let's talk a little bit more about your story and what led you to your mission with writing in bold.
Well, I, like a lot of women, I think, grew up, just as most women do, being, encouraged to do all the things. You can be whoever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do. And you believe that until you get to middle school, or at least that was the time for me when I realized that being really talkative, outgoing, and ballsy was not smiled upon. Then all the ways that I was bold started to be a problem.
Right.
So I used to be a kid in elementary school who was super talkative. The teachers always told my parents, she's so smart, she's doing great, but she talks a lot. and that was the one thing. That was the one
bad.
thing. Yeah, that was bad. She just needs, to learn how to, learn when to listen and when it's okay to talk. And so I did. I learned when it was okay to talk, and it was pretty much never. You don't talk. And then, that lasted through middle school and high school until I got to college. And then I you're in these big lecture halls, and it was just so much anxiety for me just to raise my hand and say something or contribute to a conversation. And I feel like I've spent most of my adult life learning how to get back to that place where I was bold enough to say what I felt was right, to do the things that I wanted to do, take healthy risks, not second guess my intuition. And I learned how to live safe. I learned how to live on the safe side of choices. And that is, I don't think that always served me. I mean, when I say safe, like, don't go jump off a cliff without a parachute, but you know what I mean? Like there's healthy risks, and I stayed away from those too. So I think so writing in bold was really created as my answer to fear. It's my constant reminder to go again, to listen to my fear and find a way to move forward and to be bold and to speak up and to act. So that's what writing in bold is all about. It's just my reminder to myself. And that's mostly what I write about, is just the ways that I am navigating that, figuring it out and failing in the process, and then learning about life through that experience.
I love that. So it's like so much like deconditioning almost you have to do,
Yes,
or I think a lot of us have to do to get back to that magical place.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for taking the reins and doing that, because I think people could end up living the rest of their lives not getting back there. And it's not easy, right? It's not easy to feel those fears, and it's still uncomfortable. I think a lot of times people go, oh, well, Jazmine she's more brave, or I'm not as strong as that. It's like, it's just, I feel like you do it in spite of it anyway.
Yeah. Oh, it's so scary. Every time I share a post, it's scary.
Right.
Because it's sharing a little part of myself. And I think, think about judgment. It all goes back to middle school and just being seen, but in the bad way, feeling like raw and exposed and not supported for putting myself out there. And, so every time I do, it's scary. It's scary. I don't know what kind of backlash I might receive, or, the things that people might think, but I am just committed to continuing to do it anyways, because I think we show each other through example that this is, that it's okay. That it's okay to be ballsy. It's okay to be bold and be your unabashed self.
And it feels amazing too, right? It's like when you do whatever it is, whether it's, I don't know, skydiving. I'm not saying everybody has to go out and skydive necessarily, or posting that blog post, or doing that podcast, or, going up and talking to that person, or taking that class that maybe you've been wanting to, but you've been nervous about for whatever reason. It feels so freaking amazing though, once you pull the trigger and just do it. Mm-hmm. So there's no substitute for that. So what would you have, before we get into feminism specifically, I'd love to hear maybe a couple tips you have on somebody who is in the same boat. Because I found myself, as you were telling that story, going like, crap, I never really thought about it, but I feel like you could have been talking about me. Thinking about little Connie.
Yeah.
And I going through the same things of like, oh, she's too talkative. She's all these other things. And I feel like in so many ways, I'm can totally relate to what you're saying, because it's like, now it's up to me to reconnect with that little Connie and let her know that it's okay. So, do you have any just quick tips before we move into more of the meat of the show? But for somebody who might be realizing the same thing and going, well, dang it, I want to get out there, but I'm scared to death.
Yeah, definitely. To me, there was a point where we're constantly asking ourselves, what if I do this and I fail? What if I do this and people laugh? What if I do this and that people judge me, or, all the ways, my parents stopped talking to me, or, my best friend is not my best friend anymore. All those things you think, what if? But what if you didn't? And that's the thing that I asked myself, was what's the worst thing that could happen if I did? And then what's the worst thing that could happen if I didn't? And that worst thing is worse. It's way worse than anything that could ever happen by moving forward with something that I really want to do. Because if I don't, then not only do I disappoint myself, but I disappoint the people that matter most to me, because whether they know it or not, I'm not living my true path. And it really, I think about my son a lot, like that was a moment when I was thinking, what if I never write the things that I want to write, and he someday learns that I was a writer and I didn't do it, and how disappointed he'll be, or what he'll think of me, not what everybody else in the world will, but him. And that is what propels me forward, because letting him down and not being the role model I want to be for him is the worst thing. That's the worst thing. It's not what someone's going to think, or that horrible comment that they're going to make on social media, or the repercussions that I'll have to smooth over with friends or family. That's not the worst thing. That's all fixable, and that's all things I can deal with. I don't think I can deal with not being the role model I want to be for my son.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So just asking yourself, what's the worst thing that will happen if you don't?
And you're like, ew, I don't like that.
Yeah,
like whatever. That's going to be different for each one of us. But thank you for that, to give some insight. I think that's like an excellent question for all of us to examine. So, okay. Thank you for indulging that question. I know it's a little off topic from what we're into, but I just think it's so important, because I think so many people can relate to what you've said.
Agree.
Yeah. Okay. So, circling back to feminism, you wrote a recent article called Feminism, Why It's Not a Dirty Word and Why You Should Be Using It. And we will post the direct link to that in the show notes for this episode on ladyballsradio.com, so people can catch the full article. But it really is interesting, because it does seem like the term has come out of favor a bit, and it to people that it used to not with. It makes people uncomfortable. And it's just, it's not a dirty word, right? So can you maybe discuss a little bit more about why you think that is, why it has become like people are just like distancing themselves from it?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple things happening. I think that there are people who are so far removed from progressive thought that it sounds scary. It sounds like to call yourself a feminist is a radical move. And in some ways it is, but it's okay to be radical. Like that, that's this huge step. And then I also think that there's a group of progressive thinkers who have moved in a different direction, into this kind of like peace-loving, like spiritual or pseudo-spiritual kind of way of thinking that I question. I wonder if it is a cop-out to say like, oh, well, like I choose to call myself a humanist, or it's like they want to move forward. Feminist feels too abrasive. And so, I want to embrace a more like peace loving kind of, movement. And so to think of being a feminist as being as being so aggressive that you can't align yourself with that is a misconception. That's not true at all. So I think that there are a few different reasons why people they shy away from it. And they think of feminism as being outdated, as being something that was only relevant in the 70s.
Right.
And I was asked by a coworker once, he was like, what do you all want? Don't you have everything? Don't you have everything? Like, he's like, isn't feminism dead? And it was like this shot to the stomach.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And it was stunning, because it led to more questions. Like, do you think this? Do you think this? And do you think this? And like, he'd agree with me on a lot of levels, and yet you still think that this isn't a movement, that this isn't something that we should all still be working towards. I think there's a lot of things happening. And I want to talk about it, because I think in talking about it, people will find that one, it's not scary, and two, you already are a feminist. You just didn't know it. You're just scared of the word.
Right, right. Because of some of the misconceptions people might have, right? You were already talking
Mhm.
about aggressive and, oh, they all hate men. And,
Yeah, yeah,
and
no,
you can't,
that's
when
it.
we were talking the other day, it's like, you can't wear a bra,
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
dare like get dressed up or have your hair done or,
right,
or you have to just be part of the liberal elite or whatever that even means. I don't know. That's a
right.
whole nother
Yeah,
topic. But right, that there's all these like there's this, encyclopedia entry of a
sure.
feminist
There's a
like
checklist. So you burned your bra, you stopped shaving your armpits, you don't wear
right
makeup,
ever. Yeah.
ever. Yeah,
Yeah.
there are all these things. Like if you're going to be a card carrying feminist, and you got to do this, make sure you check off your list. Um, and no,
Right.
and no, and I think that that's the thing, is that we don't realize that the term feminist is as multifaceted as any other thing you might choose to call yourself. Like, for example, maybe like you're a cinephile and you love movies, you love cinema. Do you love all cinema? No, you have your likes and your dislikes. You have the things that you're drawn to, the things that light you up. And then there's certain directors that you're like, no, that's not my jam at all. So if you think of it like that, like, there are things you can agree, feminists can agree on certain things and they can disagree on others. That's not what the movement is about. It's
Right.
not about let's all agree. This is this list of things we all have to agree. Just like we all have to burn our bras. No, you don't have to all burn your bras. But even on a larger scale, you don't have to agree on certain political issues. You don't have to agree on a certain that this is the path towards this, that this is the way we got to do it. No, you can disagree. It's this larger idea that we're working towards a place of equality. That's what we can all stand under. That's a message we can all stand behind, whether no matter where you come from, no matter what is important to you.
Love that. And I was just, you took the words out of my mouth. I was just going to ask, or you answered what I was about to ask rather, is how would you define feminism and that working towards a place of equality?
Yeah, yeah. I
Absolutely.
yeah, then and I think it is, and it's gender equality.
Hmm.
And this is what people forget, is that it's not about hating men. It's definitely not that. I love men. I have a husband, I have a son. I love them. And
Right.
I have some really amazing men in my life and I love them too. It's not about hating anyone at all. It's about equality, but that equality also applies to men. It's the it's giving men the freedom to express their feminine, because we are not feminists if we are oppressing anyone. That's not We don't advance by
Yes.
it's not about taking power away from men or oppressing men, just reversing the role and
Right.
oppressing men. It's not about that. And men are oppressed in some ways too, because they're not allowed to be feminine. It's judged, or it's looked down upon, or it's criticized for them to embrace their feminine selves, however they do. Um, it's about equality. It's about equality for both men and women, and creating opportunity for both. That's feminism. And that's something that I think we can all get behind. That we can all get behind equality.
Yeah, we should. If we don't, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Hello. I love that point that you made, though, how it applies to men as well, because I never really thought of it that way. It is, it is looked down upon. So speaking of men, we were talking about raising a feminist child, specifically a male. People might not think of that. It's like, well, how can a man be a feminist? Like, what does
Yeah.
that mean? So
Yeah.
you're a mom to a young toddler son,
Yeah.
and that is important to you, right? To make
It
sure
is.
he grows up, because he's going to grow up to be a strong man one day,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how is he going to be relating to women, and how is he going to be viewing
Mm.
women? So let's talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's a constant conversation in our house because I watch it. I watch it happen, and he's so sweet and he's so cute, but we forget that those really sweet, cute little boys, they grow up to be bigger boys and then eventually men. And, before they even get to men, they're already in a position to do shitty things to women and to act in an oppressive way. So so it's a constant question that I am asking myself is how do I raise a good man? How do I raise a good person, someone who understands boundaries and respects people? And I think the key is respecting him and allowing him to have his own boundaries. And for example, this is a big conversation that I've had recently with or not even recently, like before he was even born. This was a conversation. When I was a kid, I felt like I had to hug and be hugged and be affectionate with big smelly men in my family. And, yeah, I can love this person. I don't want to say like who these people are related to me because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
No, but you felt you were compelled to do this, not that you
yeah,
truly wanted to, but it was
yes,
expected
whether
of
I
you.
wanted to or not, I felt like I had to. And the truth is my mom and she never told me, my parents never told me you have to hug this person. Whether you like it or not, they never did that. But I felt like I had to. And I didn't feel like I was allowed to say no, that I was allowed to be in charge of my body, that I was allowed to set up my boundaries. And so then and I think that there's a connection between that and being a girl and or a young woman, and then a woman who is still a little unsure of how to set boundaries physically with people. And so I think, okay, well, the same thing applies for him. He doesn't just have to accept physical affection. For us to impose that upon him, that teaches him that it's okay for him to do that to someone else. Like, whether you like it or not, I'm going to kiss you. Whether you like it or not, I'm going to hug you. Just give me a hug and then I'll leave you alone.
Right.
Because you want the hug from that cute little toddler, but that sends a message. And so I'm constantly like telling, you can ask him for a hug, but if he says no, then he says no. He does not have to hug you. And I tell him too, do you want this? Do you want a hug, or maybe just a high five, or,
Right. Yeah.
That's up to him. He is in charge of his body. He can set those boundaries. And it's funny because I never thought about it in terms of boys. I thought about it like, if I have a daughter, then I will teach her this. But now I don't have a daughter. I have a son. And I don't want that son to go out there and impose himself upon any girl or woman. So I have to teach him how what that feels like when someone pushes themselves upon you and, makes you do something you don't like it. So it's about, I think, at least right now, this is what I'm trying to do, is teach him respect through modeling and then just being open enough to say, that's okay. You don't have to do that. Because I think it wasn't as explained to me. I wasn't explicit when I was a kid that it was okay for me to say no. I didn't know it was okay for me to say no.
Right.
And I want him to know that. And I'm hoping, but it's a constant conversation. He's going to get bigger, and then we're going to have to think about, okay, now what do we do? Or now how do we teach this?
No, I love what you're saying about that, because I think you're laying the framework. You're leading by example. You're showing him you've had that conversation already. So I think, I mean, I'm not a parent. I don't know, but it seems like a lot of that stuff is going to happen organically as he grows up because he's already modeled the behavior himself. So what he's going to expect for himself, he's going to expect for for others. And gosh, that is just so incredible to me that you are giving him that at such a young age, and he's going to take that through the rest of his life. I think that's like, this is like not just feminism, this is like a bonus parenting hack. In my opinion.
I am hoping.
Seriously.
He may turn like 6 and I'm like, oh no, what is he doing? Like, he's okay, we need, give her some space. And then we're going to have to troubleshoot and be like, wow, that was like 5 years of not doing it right. We're going to have to do it again. So I don't know. I'm figuring it out, and that's I think that is the thing is thinking about where you're going and what you got to do now in order to get there. Instead of getting there and being like, oh shit, we never talked about this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. And I just think the concept of you don't just have to put up with something, and instilling that at a young age, because it seems innocent enough, right? When it's when Aunt Tilda is, I don't know, I don't have an Aunt Tilda, but wants to come and give you that big old,
slobbery kiss,
cheek pinch, whatever, and but we carry that through our lives. I think especially as women, just okay, this is what is expected.
Yeah.
Or as men too.
Like, can't even, yes.
Yeah, and it's not, and it's so funny. I had a guest on, several episodes ago now, who talked about this in relation to adulthood, of like opening up that conversation she was talking more between romantic partners, but it applies too. It's like, it's okay for women to have that conversation of like, no, I'm not, just because, I'm talking to you or friendly with you doesn't mean I automatically want you to kiss me or, whatever. It's like, set those boundaries and have those conversations of when it's okay and not okay. I don't mean to go totally off the rails into another direction with this, but I think learning that at such a young age is incredibly valuable. So
yeah, and I think it all goes back to being the nice girl, and like growing up believing that we have to be nice girls. And we should be nice girls, but what a nice girl meant for me, and the way I understood it, and I, not blaming my parents, but just kind of blaming society. Like, this is what I grew up learning, and seeing, is that being a nice girl was not upsetting anyone. Being a nice girl meant not, not ruffling feathers, not being too this or too that, and always being pretty while you did it. and just trying to always make things, offer up information or whatever, like in the nicest possible way in order to not offend anyone. And so when you grow up believing that you have to be the nice girl, it applies in all these different areas of our lives, in romantic relationships, in navigating sexuality, but also how you are in the workplace, how you interact at the supermarket when, something's not working, something's not fair working out and you have something to say. Wherever, when you see injustice, or you see someone else that is subject to injustice, being the nice girl seems like you don't want to speak up. You see something happen and it sucks, and you turn around and you go home and, you cry or you tell your friend like, oh, I saw this thing, it really sucked. But what did you do? You were the nice girl. You didn't do anything. And I think that feminism, people think that being a feminist means being, not being the nice girl. And that's what I want to talk about. That's what I want to demystify. Because yeah, you can be nice, but really what we want to be is compassionate. You want to be compassionate. And when you're compassionate, then you stand up for injustice. When you are compassionate, you see when something is wrong and you say something. You stand up and you take action because you're acting from your heart. And being nice being nice doesn't necessarily get you anywhere, but being compassionate will get you everywhere. I don't know. Maybe.
No, I love it. Being nice, yeah, it doesn't necessarily get you anywhere, but being compassionate does. And I would say compassion is what's going to change the world, not being nice necessarily.
Yeah.
As we're loosely defining it here, but that's so true. So let's explore that a little more. Let's circle back to what we were talking about earlier of why some people might be like, I don't want to say scared necessarily, but, you know, backing away from the word feminism. Either, like you were saying, there seems to be two main reasons. Maybe there's that deep-seated feeling of like, oh, I'm not a progressive, I'm not a liberal, I don't want to do that, you know. Or conversely, just to like everything's great, let's just be kind to everybody. But both are like resulting in the same problem, in my opinion, not freaking speaking up when we see injustice. And to me, like, injustice isn't conservative or liberal. It's not Democratic or Republican.
Yeah, exactly.
Injustice is just freaking injustice. If people aren't being treated equally or treated badly, what would your call to action to those people be? Just in general, like get over yourself. Is that it? I mean, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but like seriously, like we need to come together for good now more than ever. And if that means redefining what a feminist looks like, that's what it means. But what would your call to action be to those people? It's like, we need more compassion. We need more people speaking up.
Yeah, I think that wherever you stand, because I'm sure there are listeners that are saying, well, I'm like you said, like I'm a conservative or I'm a Republican. And so by default, I can't be a feminist. I challenge that. And so wherever you stand, if you stand in a place where you're thinking, I'm this, so I can't be a feminist, I challenge you to rethink that. I challenge you to ask yourself, well, what if? What if I could be both things? Because the truth is, we're complex. We're always more than one thing at one time. I can be Mexican American and I can be white American at the same time. I will never be one or the other. I will always be both. And so that ask yourself, like, what if I could be conservative and feminist? What would that look like? What would that look like for me? Because certainly Republican women in the Senate, they're dealing with bullshit, misogyny every day.
Right.
They are. And so I think it's really thinking about, like, what's the main goal? What is it that we are all working towards? What is it that we all want? You know, this greater good. And we can disagree and we can want to get there different ways. But at the end of the day, we're all working towards this thing. And so I challenge people who might be questioning that, saying, no, that's not me, you know, but what if it was? And just try it on for size. Try it on for size and do a little research. Like the Women's March on Saturday in Washington, they've come out with their platform and they've said, like, this is our platform. These are our things. This is what we are pushing towards. Look at that and decide where you agree and where you disagree. And if you disagree, that's okay. That is absolutely okay. If you're like, you know what, this is the one thing I question and I'm not sure if I can get behind that. That doesn't mean that we just throw out feminism altogether. No, that's not for me. I challenge you to look beyond those things that you disagree with and see what can you get behind.
Right.
Because that's where we connect. Where you're agreeing, like, that's the way forward. So there's those things that we disagree on, but let's connect with the things that we do agree on. We do see that is the common good, that is the direction that we all want to go. And sometimes it's uncomfortable. I've heard that there are white women who are shying away from the march, shying away from this movement because they don't necessarily agree with everything, or they're just simply uncomfortable talking about race, talking about gender issues, talking about economic issues. And it's okay to feel uncomfortable, because I think that's where we learn. And to just to recognize it and say, ooh, I feel uncomfortable about this. I feel uncomfortable talking about race. I don't know everything. And I have certain, handful of experiences that have colored me this way or that way, or I have these people in my life that have kind of led me this way or that way. feel that discomfort. And I challenge you to still be open. Just stay open enough to just listen. It's okay to go, feel uncomfortable, and just listen. And just see where you align with people. Just see what you can learn. Just see where you can find a common thread that connects you to some other woman in some other situation, or some other man in some other situation it's completely unlike yours, and yet we all want the same things. So that's kind of what I think. But it takes a leap. It takes a definite opening of your heart and your mind to get to that place. If you have always thought to yourself, no way, feminism, no way, that's not my jam.
Right. That's not for me. So
that's not for me. No,
that's not. That doesn't describe me. But that brings us to something we touched on a little earlier, which I think this is the perfect time to flesh that out. Why you're probably a feminist and don't even know it. So what are some of the hallmarks people can look for that are, like, if somebody's listening to this going, yeah, okay, but it's not me. She's not talking about me.
Yeah.
So what would be some of those hallmarks that might tip you off, like, no, honey, you might be a feminist, even if you're not owning it.
Yeah. I mean, do you believe that you should get paid an equal amount as a man who's doing the exact same job? Because if you do, you're probably a feminist. and I cannot imagine a woman saying no.
Yeah, I don't need that. Why should I?
It's just saying, like, no, that's okay. No, that's okay. You keep your extra quarter, like, whatever it is. No. There's one example. Do you believe that, if a family decides to have a child, do you believe that the father or the partner should be able to get time off of work, just as much as the mother who actually had the child? Because aren't dads important too?
Right.
Or the second parent, whoever the second parent is. Yes. Like, I think we can all get behind that, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Who's going to say no? Who's going to say no to that?
Right.
Who's going to say no to paid family leave?
Right.
It's just, like, really basic things like that I think if you start paying attention, you see that, like, well, these are just no-brainers. These are just no-brainers. Like, of course this is what I want. And things get more complicated when we start talking about reproductive rights and stuff like that. And to that I say, it's okay. We can disagree. We can all disagree. Even people who've been declared feminists for decades are still disagreeing on what the laws should be and, where we should be going. So that's okay, but let's find what we can get behind and let's go from there, because there's a lot more than you realize. If you love seeing films about women's stories, if you loved Thelma and Louise, shit, like, come on.
Yeah.
Well, like a feminist.
You might be a feminist if this is like a whole new...
I'm going to create a BuzzFeed. Look for that. It's coming.
For sure. No, seriously, I love that. Like, did you like Thelma and Louise?
Yeah. Are you, like, totally excited about, like, strong female characters in film, or just, like, women-centric films?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Oh.
Come on, you guys.
Oh my gosh. This is so true, though. If you're rooting for, the girl team, come on.
Yeah, exactly. But if you want your daughter to have the possibility of excelling in sports, if you don't want her to get to a certain age and then suddenly sports are not an option for her anymore, if you want that, if you want her to be able to be a soccer player for as long as she can, and for those opportunities to be there for her, then you might be a feminist.
You might be. Can't say for sure. But
if you want the teacher in your daughter's class to see her hand and call on her, then you might be a feminist. If you want your daughter to speak up when she knows the answer,
Yes.
You might be a feminist. I think so. And it's so funny because it seems like such a no-brainer, but honestly, I think that the wall that we've built dividing us, and some people, they're standing on one side of the wall, and this idea of feminism is on this other side, and it seems so archaic or abrasive or this or that you just don't see like how that works on and how that applies to your life. It applies to all of our lives.
Right.
And I think, when the tape came out with Trump and him boasting his the way he felt about sexually assaulting women.
Right. That's lovely.
That conversation.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people that were saying, well, if you should care. If you have a mother or a sister or a daughter, you should care. But then there was like this other movement, and I was like, yes. People saying like, no, are you a human? Are you a human? Because you don't have to have a sister or a daughter to care.
Right.
Are you a human? Do you believe in, all you have to be able to do is just relate to someone, to be able to relate to someone on a human level, to believe that this is wrong.
Right.
To see that this is not okay. And I think that's where we're moving as a feminist movement, is we're moving to a place where we're all included in this. Mm-hmm. This is not just for upper class white women. This is for everyone. This is for men. This is women of all races. This is for people of all gender identities. This is the movement.
Yeah, and all religions and all, because I think sometimes too, it's like, oh, I'm a Christian conservative. I'm as far as possible away from a feminist, and not so fast.
No, you can be religious and you can be feminist. Absolutely. I believe that. It doesn't mean you have to toss your spiritual beliefs out the window. No. And in fact, I believe that they give you stronger convictions. They give you a path. You can find the way that these two things are lined up. They give you something to frame the way you are seeing equality.
Definitely. And I think, we've talked a lot about conservative and things. I think it's important for us, those of us that consider ourselves liberal, to have that open mind too, to realize that feminists don't have to necessarily look exactly like, I don't mean looks in like physical looks, but, every single opinion doesn't have to mesh up. So I think it's going to go both ways to reach out and get some change done, right? Because it's going to mean all women coming together and working for the greater good, and men too. Mm-hmm. But I mean, So I am so excited about You Might Be a Feminist If. I am going to be.
I'm
looking
excited
for
too.
it.
Now I'm going to write it.
No, you're going to write. And I'll make sure that once it's done, make sure we share it on the site and our social media and everything, because that is going to kick ass. I know it is. So see, just hatched right here on Lady Balls Radio. You guys heard it first. Okay. Anything else? We're going to go for a quick break here and then come back for the rapid fire questions. But is there anything else that you wanted to cover, or a point that you wanted to hit that we haven't touched on yet before we do that?
Wow, not off the top of my head. I mean, I do want to say, for all those listening, Saturday is a really important day, and there are satellite marches happening all over the country. And I urge people to, if you can, go check it out. Yeah. I urge you to bundle up your babies and take your families. They're not always the best places for kids. So that's a personal decision, but to go and see, go and see if you connect, go and see it, listen to stories, listen to people, listen to what's happening out there. Because I think it's an important movement. I think it's important for us to start this next term with this voice being out there, and we are only as strong as we are connected. And if we can all connect, then I think that there is strength in this movement.
Absolutely. Especially now, I feel like things are so uncertain, and And this, once again, could be a big topic for a whole nother call, but it's like maybe we did get complacent a bit thinking like, oh, well, we'll let the government take care of it. But that's not always necessarily going to be the case. And there is power in all of us coming together for what's right and what's equal. And that goes beyond whatever your political affiliation is, in my opinion. I think that goes for Republicans just as much as Democrats, for goodness, for what's right, for equality, and to make the country better, to make the world better. So
I think there's a link. I might even be able to find it for you, and you can put it in your show notes. Okay. That's like you put in your zip code, and then it tells you which marches are in your area.
Oh, cool.
So I will look for that, and because I know I'm like almost 100% positive it's out there, because I think I found it before. I'll find it again and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I know there's more and more all the time. Are you going to be at the one here in Los Angeles? Are you still in Los Angeles?
I am going to go to the one in Chicago.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, because we'll be there. My husband and I, he was so worried because like, is it okay if I'm there too? And is it going to be all women? I'm like, no.
We need our men. We need our men. We need our men to be there and say like, yeah, I love that my husband is unabashed about calling himself a feminist, and he'll admit that he's still learning what that means. Right. And there are moments where we talk about things, and he's like, "I had no idea. He'll say like, "But isn't it? Is it like this?" And we'll have these long conversations, and they end up with him like understanding, one thing a little bit better than he understood it before, and he's the first to admit, I don't know everything. And I'm still learning what it means to be a feminist. And I'm still learning what it means for my wife to be a woman and what her experience is. But this is who I am. And there's nothing sexier. I will tell you, nothing sexier than a man who openly says, I am a feminist.
Are you listening, guys? If there is, or pass it on, ladies, to your husbands. Nothing sexier. It is a thing. And I'll say that's true. So, all right. Okay, we are going to take just a quick break, and then we will be back with rapid fire questions. Okay, we will be right back. Badass Girls Unite. Want to be part of our inner circle? Head on over to ladyballsradio.com, where you can join our VIP mailing list, check out the show notes for each episode, and access free bonus content. You can also head on over to our Facebook page, Lady Balls Radio, to join in the discussion, get updates on your favorite guests, and hear who's going to be on the show next. Okie dokie, we are heading back to the show. And we are back. Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, Jazmine. We have got a segment we like to call Rapid Fire. I don't know. I call it something different each show, but it's just a series of some questions, fun questions. Listeners can get to know you a little bit better and maybe even get more inspiration. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. A book you are currently loving.
Oh my goodness. I finished it already, but I read Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, and it just immediately popped into like my top favorite 10 books of my life. It's so good. It's so good.
Is that fiction?
It is fiction, and it is like this world. I just want to keep going back. Like, I just want to, and I wish it was a real place. Like, I want to go to the Night Circus. It is so good. It's so good. It's about, it's a love story, but it's also like a little bit fantasy. It's these dueling magicians, and they're prodigies of these older magicians, and there's this kind of backdrop of this circus that happens at night, and it's just it is just delicious. It is just a delicious read. I highly recommend it. I can't get enough of it.
See, and everybody's probably expecting like, what feminist tree is she going to expect us to read? See,
I'm also listening to Gloria Steinem's latest memoir. I'm listening to that on audio. I'm also listening to Amanda Palmer's The Art of Asking on audio. I love audiobooks. So I do recommend both of those. I split my time between fiction and nonfiction, but I do love, when it comes to fiction, I do love diving into a paper book. Just,
Right.
I love turning the pages, and I love diving into fiction in that way. And, but there's something about listening to the authors telling them. I don't think Larry Steinham's is narrated by her, but Amanda Palmer narrates her audiobook, and I just love hearing her voice tell her story and her words. There's something really powerful about that. So,
Totally. Yeah, no, I agree. I never thought of it that way, but I do enjoy nonfiction more on audio sometimes,
yeah,
and then vice
yeah.
versa. Yeah, so all right. Okay, those are some great picks. You can have one superpower. What do you pick?
Oh my gosh, it is to freeze time. It will always be to freeze time.
Oh.
I think I think that's the thing that I am always grappling with, is scheduling and getting all the things done in one day that I need to get done. And if I could just freeze time, if I could just freeze time and freaking take a nap, or just freeze time long enough to get X, Y, and Z done. And then unfreeze time, and then I can just get back to life. Oh man, that would be it. That would be my superpower.
Time freezer. All right. Okay. But you get to do stuff during the time. Everybody else is
Yes.
just frozen.
Yeah.
You're just
Everyone
like,
else is frozen, but I am sleeping, or I'm like opening mail, or like writing a blog post or something like that.
oh my gosh, opening mail. You're going to freeze time and use it to
Oh,
open mail.
or baked bread. Oh my gosh, I have not baked bread since before my son was born, and
Oh.
oh yeah, my poor family. Nobody's had some home baked challah since before Judah was born.
Oh.
Um, yeah, yeah.
That sounds so good.
I would freeze time and bake bread, and nap, and maybe read a book.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. And maybe a little mail. All right. That's a good one. That is a good one. Okay. What is alternate universe Jazmine doing right now? And you can't
Oh
freeze time there. You just
no, alternate universe. Yeah, I'd freeze time. I'd go to my alternate universe, and I'd live that life, and then I'd come back. Um, I think I would be a Broadway star. I would be kicking my legs up, and I would be belting out the tunes. That would be alternate universe Jazmine.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love my
Yeah, I'd
last
be in the spotlight.
I think there's a theme. One of my last guests was saying, more recent guest was like, I would be a rock star.
Oh,
So yeah, but I like it. You're out there on Broadway belting it out
yeah.
to the back row.
Dancing. I'd have the jazz hands going.
Oh yeah.
It'd be rad.
I
It'd be
can see
rad.
it. I can totally see it. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, here is one that I think is so important for everybody. Self-care is so important, especially for us girls who are aiming to change the world. What is at least, I know you're crazy busy, but what is at least one thing you do for yourself to stay grounded, sane, pamper yourself?
It is always yoga. It is the one thing. I mean, you need different things at different points in your life. Sometimes self-care is just taking a nap.
Right.
Or, treating yourself to a latte instead of a coffee, or, just those little things. But yoga is the one thing that always does me good. I never walk away from yoga and think I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have spent that money, or I shouldn't have spent that time, or I shouldn't have done that. Never do I think that. It always brings me back. It always brings me back. My mat is that magic place where I remember who I am when everything else is crazy. The mat is where I find myself again.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. I agree. It's like a little sacred rectangle.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. Oh, good one. Good one. And I mean, I think it's an important point you brought up too, is I think people might feel like, oh, I'm taking something away. I should be doing something else. Like, you're investing in yourself, whether it's just your time, your breath, just do it. You're going to be so much more effective. I mean, and that might be different for everybody. For some people, it might be running or, like you
Sure.
said, napping or dancing or whatever. But do it because it'll just, you'll be that much more connected.
Definitely. I think there's something really sacred about movement and like the moving meditation. And, you know, runners know this and cyclists and, you know, anyone who kind of goes through that like repetitive kind of process. Even I was talking to a friend who was a soccer player and he was like, yeah, there's like this zone, which I never thought that you could get there in competitive sports. I always thought of it as like a solitary thing, but he was talking about that zone, that like place. And I think everyone's got theirs. For me, it just happens to be yoga. And it's funny because like when life gets busy, it's the first thing that I'll cut out. I'll just be like, oh, I guess I don't have time for yoga. And then, you know, you can only do that so many days. And then, you know, I start to like inwardly crumble and I just got to get back. I just got to get back to the mat.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Totally. All right. Okay. And lastly, a woman who's inspired you greatly, either in your work, your life in general. Someone who will give a shout out.
Someone who's inspired me. You know, I'm really like, I mentioned her before, Amanda Palmer. I'm listening to her book, The Art of Asking. And she is really shifting some things in the way that I see life. I'm really thinking about things more like just life is this more collaborative experience. She's really about connecting to people and reaching out and creation and art and life is not being a solitary sport. You know, this being this place where we all need each other and we all need to allow ourselves to be vulnerable sometimes so that we can connect the way we, you know, and get the things that we need in life, you know. And offer out, you know, be there for other people in the same way. I'm so inspired. I'm so inspired by who she is and what she's done. And I think back and I was like, man, I should have been a performance artist when I was in college, or I should have been this, I should have done that. But, you know, I'm doing the things that I'm doing. I am not Amanda Palmer, but she's really inspiring me. And I think that she's going to change the way I think that her book will have impacted my life in a very meaningful way.
Awesome. I'm going to have to check that out for sure.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, we are coming up on the end of the show, but oh my gosh, so many great gems. Thank you so much, Jazmine, for taking time out of your super busy schedule. I know you're here visiting family.
Yeah.
And we so appreciate you sharing this gift with us because it's just, like I said, so many great nuggets out of the show.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share because I feel like it's important and I don't know. I mean, if one woman, one man, one person listens to this and thinks like, you know what, maybe I am a feminist or let me go check out that march or who is that Gloria Steinem lady? Then I will feel like it's a job well done.
Yeah. And that's exactly why I do this show. It's so magical when those connections happen. And they will with this one. The others, it is just sometimes lighting that spark for somebody to go, you know what, I am going to go out of my comfort zone and check something
think about this
out. So ladies and men, everybody get to the march close to you this weekend. It is going to be such an incredible experience, no matter, and dare I say, no matter who you voted for, or no matter what you think your political your political affiliation is. This is just such an important time of people coming together.
I agree. Yeah,
for the good of everybody. So
yeah.
All right. Any parting words?
That's it. Just go out there, be bold, and be compassionate. That's it.
Yes. The world can use more of both of those, especially from us. If you're like someone listening to this going, yeah, I'm that timid girl, you can uncondition. It can be done.
It can be done.
All right, Jazmine. Well, thank you so much. Thanks again, listeners, for being here. And don't forget, if you want to connect with Jazmine, You can go to her website, writinginbold.com. You can sign up for her newsletter and stay in touch. She also is on Instagram at writinginbold, and also you can get her updates on Facebook at facebook.com/writinginbold. So make sure to connect with her there. Check out all of her great writing and all the new things that will be coming up. Also, all the links, just a reminder, all the links and everything we talked about in this show, you can easily access in the show notes on ladyballsradio.com for this episode. So thanks again. Hope to see you marching somewhere on Saturday, and I will catch you on the next episode.